Alright guys, today is the day where we're going to do brakes and struts for 2004 Nissan Pathfinder Armada. So the tools that you're going to need today is the wrench set or a wheel lug removal kit. I have the vehicles here, so I'm going to use that, along with our key if you have a lock. So if you saw the previous video on how to remove a lock that you don't have a key for, you can take a look at that video as well. I put new ones on here, so I have the key for it. Okay, so that'll get the tire off. We're going to need to jack up the vehicle. So I purchased from Harbor Freight this 3-ton floor jack because this is a much heavier vehicle. I decided to use a larger jack. I do have a smaller one, but I'm going to go ahead and use this new one that I purchased. In addition, I have purchased from Harbor Freight these 6-ton heavy-duty jack stands. So these jack stands are going to secure the vehicle so we don't rely on only the jack for safety reasons. Okay, we're going to need our brakes. So we're going to be doing front and back brakes here, but I'm not sure if we'll do it in the same video here, but we got 2 different sizes of rotors here for the front and for the back. Also, we have our pads, and again they're 2 different sizes for front and back. I have done different types of brakes in the past. I use mostly ceramic brakes. They cut down on dust and heat. However, for this vehicle, it is a tow package and it's going to be used for towing of a camper that we plan on getting. So I am going with metallics. So do your own research. What I understand is the metallics, they create more dust, but they are superior in stopping. So that's why I chose to go with metallic brakes this time. Additionally, we have struts. I have a broken strut on the front driver's side that will need to be replaced, so I'm replacing both of them. And here are the struts that I am planning on using. Additionally, we need tools. I don't know what size of metric sockets we're going to need yet, so I will update the description with what we end up using. So I have a couple different sizes here. And then we also need some type of vise that will allow us to compress the caliper. Okay. So we also may need a plate to put in there if there are 2 pistons in the caliper, or we'll just use the used brake pad in there to push back those pistons. Another thing we will be doing is opening up the brake fluid cap. And we do that because we're not going to be bleeding the system. We are going to be pushing the pistons in, so we're not creating air in the system. And we remove the top so that we do not create undue pressure in the system that can possibly damage something or break a line when we push those pistons back in. The advantage of doing this is I'm lazy and I don't want to bleed, and I'm the only person. It's hard to bleed with one person, so that's the way we're going to do it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get set up here to start on the passenger side here. Okay, last but not least, I'm using thicker gloves for your hands. You can choose to do it or not to do it. In my younger days, I would get my hands super messy. Now I choose to wear gloves. So the thicker gloves won't rip. Definitely those smaller, thin ones do rip quite a bit. So you'll go through quite a few of those. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take off the wheel, and we're just going to loosen the bolts. Once they're loosened, we will raise the vehicle to remove them completely. So we'll just access our tool kit here and take out our wrench. So righty, Right is to tight, left is to loosen. And then we get our wheel lock. And then get it set. Alright, so now we're going to lift the vehicle. Now refer to your owner's manual for the points on the vehicle where you can apply jack pressure to, or usually it's labeled. So this will be the first time doing this on this vehicle, so let's find out where we can go. So here is, I'm going to go ahead and get the light going here. There we go. Okay, so usually where the jack can go, you'll see an arrow. So there's an arrow pointing down here, which is kind of rusted. So that is where they recommend putting the jack, at least the one that they provide. So we're going to go ahead and sit in here, or sit right up in front of it. We got to find a place to put our jack stand as well. So jack stand's probably going to go up front here. So we'll go down a little bit further. So we just set this guy up underneath, and then we pump it up. So this unit has a lock on it for shipping, so we'll take that off. It's all brand new stuff. So I'm just putting the handle in, and it comes with a locking bolt. So now I twist it to the right to lock it, and now I can okay, we're just pumping it up in that spot where we are allowed to lift. Okay, I'm just going to do that until we can get a jack stand under there. Okay, so the tire is free. You can turn it by hand. Just going to get this in position. Alright, I'm going to jack it up just a little bit more so we can get that jack stand in place. There we go, and I'm just going to loosen the jack slightly by turning it left so that the jack lets down slightly and puts weight on that jack stand. Okay, so now we got our jack stand in position, and we still have pressure on our jack stand so it stays in place. Okay, and basically there are two bolts holding in. There's two bolts holding in the caliper, one at the top here and one down here. So if we pull these off, we'll be able to pull out the caliper. And we're going to want to get a hanger or something to hold this so it doesn't drop. We don't want to put tension on our brake line. So we want to make sure it's safe and secure when we remove it. And came off pretty easy. So both of them loosened easy, which was good. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and remove these. Okay, set them aside, bottom top. Some people like to put it back the way they took it apart. Okay, we're going to need to get a piece of wire to hang that. Okay, you can use electrical wire or whatever. This is what I'll end up using. Okay, we're going to just pull the caliper off. As you can see, we got two pistons on here. We're going to want to push both of those pistons back in. Before we do that, we need to open up the brake reservoir for the fluid to relieve any back pressure. So we went ahead and just tied it off on the top and right there. Okay, we got it off. You can see the max line is here. Here's our max. So we're above the max, so this is over full. It's going to end up probably leaking everywhere. So I'm going to put a rag underneath here to catch it in case it overflows. So I need to find one of those now. But that is the next step. Wrap this with a rag and then we'll compress those pistons. Okay, there goes our rag. Don't want to get it in there. You don't want to contaminate the brake fluid. So let's get that piston compressed. We're going to go ahead and take the brake pads out. They slide right out from the top to the bottom. There's quite a bit of pad left on this, so the pads are pretty good. Rotors have a lot of grooves in them, so rotor's worn down quite a bit. Both pads are almost about the same. On the back it was a little bit more worn. So we're just going to set the brake pad on top of the pistons and then use our vise to tighten them down. This is so that we can get the new brake pads on. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the caliper back in place. So again, we're just pushing this in so it is flush, so we can get new brake pads in. Next is the rotor. And as you see, these were originally ceramic pads that were on there. Okay, so for the rotor, we need to remove the piece here that holds in the caliper. And those bolts are usually the ones that are the most pain to get off. And that is this top one back here and this bottom one down here. Okay, so these are going to be a pain. Let's see what size they are. They're bigger. I'm going to go with a 16. Nope. Oh no, that was a 19. So we're gonna go 20 if I could find it. Okay, this set does not come with a 20, but there's a 21. Let's just check that. Yeah, that is the correct one. Okay, so hopefully we have enough room. I think we do. And this, we may need to PB blast. It's quite rusted. So I have a breaker bar as well, which we may need. Let's see what happens. This one's got to go up. So, to get good leverage, I'm just going to use the rubber mallet. See if that gets me anywhere. Use the mallet. Well, let me see if I can use the breaker bar. I gotta move the camera because everything's in the way. That did the trick. Okay, let's try the top. Ouch. And that one came out loose too, so lots of sweat. Okay, we can go back to our smaller wrench. Sure this brake line has no tension on it, because again we don't want to break it, so I'm moving the caliper over because this is going to come off now, this rotor, and I'm assuming you're saying that's probably better. Okay, so it's grooved, it's definitely dug in, and this backside is really kind of grooved all over. There's a known issue with the braking system on these Armadas, from what I understand, and maybe a reprogramming fixes it or a brake booster replacement fixes it, but basically it may be what's causing this issue with the uneven wear on the front. So keep that in mind and do your own research on that as well. Okay, so now we just reverse what we did. We're going to put on a new rotor. We're going to put back the connecting piece for the caliper on here, put the pads on, and then tighten it back up. So I'm going to start the strut. No, there's enough room. I'll put the brake on so I can finish this segment, and then I'll start that as a different segment. So these rotors come in bags, and they have a light covering of oil so that they don't rust. So we're going to use brake cleaner. Okay. So we got the new rotor in. We're going to reattach this thingy. What is the official name? Caliper holder, something like that? Caliper holder thingy. Sounds good enough. Okay, I do not recall the torque specification for this. Okay, so we got those in, and I basically got it down and put a little bit of force on there. I couldn't tell you what the torque is on there right now. I'll end up having to look it up, but you don't want to overdo it, so I'll put in the description if I find it what the torque specification is. Then we got to put our brakes on. Our brake pads. And the way they got these set up is one's driver, one's passenger side. And they have a little clip on there. So if we look at the old ones, you can see this is where the clip was and it broke off. This was the back, because it was slightly lower. Or, no, this one's the back. So the back had it on there, and this one was the front. So that goes on the back. So we're just going to match it up. So clip the clip. This one we use, and that one we use. My gosh, man. There we go. Oh. Alright. Now we're going to put the caliper back on. And the caliper is going to be a little bit tough to get on, because these pads are not worn at all. Now we're going to tighten these as well, and we're just going to get it to a snug where it's just tight. Okay, and then I'm going to go down about a quarter of a turn. There we go. Alright, so this is one side done. We're going to come back and we're going to spray this with brake cleaner to get off any residual oils. So we're good to go here. Now we're going to look at doing the same on the other side. Same process, same procedure. So I hope this was helpful. Again, this was the passenger side of the vehicle. The same procedures on the driver's side as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like.